Very, 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 very good night to you. Good night to you all. Uh, to all those who are joining, a very, very pleasant good evening to you. This is Dr. Matthews-Bey. To those who are joining me on the live, the YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook on that platform. To those who are joining me live on the GMS Live Radio Guyana out of South Mexium. Welcome to you all, Southwest, as a matter of fact, Mexium, which is known as South America. A very pleasant good evening to you. Islam to you, Moors. Islam, I, self-law, and master. A very pleasant good evening to you. This is Dr. Matthews-Bey coming to you live on the Dr. Matthews-Bey show. So good night to you. I think I'm having a slight little problem with Instagram, but please do give me some time so the Instagram settings can work properly for itself. So don't forget to share the live stream. To those who are now joining, share the live, share the live, share the live. Dr. Matthews-Bey in the house, coming to you live. Okay, so to those who are now joining, share the live. Share the live. Okay, let me see. Yes, I think I am. No. Okay. It looks like I'm not getting through with the Instagram, so let me go straight into tonight's show. Now, over the weekend, I've had the opportunity to look back at a few things that I posted on the live stream and that I have available to review. And I've realized that I needed to specify on a few topics that was slipping away. Basically because I think it is the comprehension of one's understanding of what is available to them so they can comprehend exactly how do they go forward, or how do they move forward in this system that we're living in. Okay, one of the most important thing basically, it is to really to know where we are and who we are. When I mean who we are is looking at a possibility of really acknowledging who are we really. You know, who are we really? What are we doing? Or how do we understand what are we doing? Where do we go from here? You know, do we see ourselves basically as servants of a system or public servants, as a matter of fact? You know, do we see ourselves as basically working for a group of people only? And what are we working for? And before I get into this topic, I want to discuss who we were before we come to this civilized way of living. We call it civilized because that's how we look at it, right? That's how we we look at it. We look at it as being civilized, right? But what do we comprehend what is civilized? You know, what when we say civilized, what do we see ourselves as being? What kind of a civilized people? You know, I mean, when we talk about civilization, how do we see ourselves as civilized people? Do we think it is a good thing to be civilized? Because being civilized really is being governed by a military system. And who comes under a military system? People that are confined to one particular idea and ideology. I'm going to show you a simple example. In the civilization that we're living in, the civilized manner, it is against the law for you to steal from someone. What is stealing? Stealing is taking and depriving of one's property without their consent. That is theft. But what is your property? Number one, the land that you lived on and still living on as an Aboriginal indigenous people. Now you don't own that land. That land was stolen from you. So that's the first stage of stealing. Not you stealing it, others that are stealing it from you. Now, when you decide to take back your land, it becomes illegal squatting against the law. Squatting is illegal. So that means that you're stealing from who? The government of the day. But who is the government? Let's break it down into syllables. If you're working and you decide to keep some of the produce in what you're working for, it is considered stealing. But from who? Who are you stealing from? Yourself. But you can go to jail for that because it is against the law, which is a civilized system. I'm showing you how backward this thing is. Good. We're seeing it in that version. But let's look at it in the next version. The next version is that, yes, you're stealing it, but look at it. You're working hard and you're paying something that's called taxes. And that taxes is a system stealing from your energies, your hard labor. You pay PAYE, pay as you earn, and you pay taxes on your allowances, 33.3%. Then you pay taxes, which is VAT, value added tax on the goods and services that you want to acquire. That is 3 types of stealing from you. Then here was the next one. Let us say you don't want to bank your money. You decide to save your money up in your home. And the law tells you that you cannot be found with more than $2 million on yourself. It is considered money laundering. They take it from you. That's stealing. Now, remember we're talking about stealing. Now, here is the hurtful part of it. The monies that you work for so hard and you decide to save doesn't even belongs to you. So the system is stealing from you in general because the money on it marks property of Bank of Guyana, property, bank of whichever corporation that you're in. So you don't own the money. So what are they stealing? They're stealing your energies, your sweat. They're stealing your sacrifices. The amount of energy you put into work so hard for nothing at all. They're stealing that from you. Everything that you do has to come under a taxation system. So they're stealing you. So how do they steal you? By telling you that you do not belong to you. So this is what happens now. A system is formed, and they call it the political system. And in that political system, you go and you vote. You go and you vote for the chief oppressor to continue to oppress you and to steal from you. And that is what you call an election. So you stand in line and you go and you vote. You now give them permission to govern over you. You now have to work to support the system. Failing to support the system is theft. They call it treason. Some countries, they call it anarchy. Yes. Some places, they call it capital crime. You can be sentenced to death by failing to give the system life. Mind you, that is your choice. So when you fail to do that, it's against the law. It becomes a capital punishment. And when it becomes that, now you are now confined to a 10x5 box, which is prison. That's where they put you and they punish you. They make sure that you're being punished properly for not adhering to the laws. And as far as the law is concerned, you have to keep obeying them. That is the only way you can survive. That's the only way. It can't have nothing better or nothing less. Why do I bring up this topic? Because every day you wake up, you go to work for a system that continues to take from you. That's what you keep on going to do. You're going to continue to work for a system that is going to keep on taking from you. And there's nothing else that can be done. And when you continue to work for it, they continue to take from you. They will continue to rob you. And they're going to continue to rob you. And by robbing you, it gives them the right to control you because you do not know or do not comprehend what is it and how is it to live by. Remember, they set aside, they create systems that is going to continue to take from you. Those are the laws. You check it. Everything that you do, they will continue to take from it or from you. Everything you buy, everything you preserve, the little wealth that you have, the material things that you're working so hard for, they're taking it from you because they don't want you to know it is free. They want you to feel that you have to get up, wake up every morning, go to work to continue to make them rich. And what is rich? The material things? No, it's to govern over you, to keep on making you a mediocre. That is what makes them rich and wealthy. But let you have 1 ounce 1 ounce of knowledge, you become a menace to society. You become public enemy number 1. They will work hard to take your life away because you're not supposed to be knowledgeable of the fact. You're supposed to remain ignorant. And those who speak out, well, will tear their walls down because they're not supposed to speak out. They're supposed to continue to allow things the way it's supposed to be. I was told that today. I was told, why do you struggle so hard to bring things to light, and you got children? This is the first thing this brings to you. You got children to live for. Children who's going to look forward to daddy. Children who want to make sure that they see daddy at the end of the day. Don't you think about them? Then I realize how backward they are because they're not studying about the future of their children. Because if you only thinking about your children, thinking about you, and you thinking about your children, and you die, you leave them in the same state that you die in, well, then there's no revolution. There's no independence. There is no getting rid of the system that they're living in to a complete independence of the system. You don't want to be dependent on the system. You want to be independent of. You must be able to say as you feel like, travel as you feel like, live how you're supposed to live, because that's what it's intended to. Your inalienable rights, the right to life, freedom, and the right to life, liberty, and property. That is what you're entitled to. But the system takes all that away from you. So why should I allow my children to grow in that same system that I'm living in? It is best for me to educate them. It is best for me to stand up against that which oppresses me. So when they become as an adult, they shall never live by those standards because their father has lived to eradicate those standards that oppresses them every single day. Those are the facts. But we teach our children to go to school, get an education, be certified, and then go get a good job. And a good job will give you a better pay so you can live happy. Well, so far, I have never seen certain persons live happy. Even to when they retire, you call some of them, say, they're enjoying the old age pension where? Because they're still subjected to a system. Because when the system is ready, the system do what they want to do with them. And they can't complain. They must not complain. That it was is done. It works so feverishly to make sure that you're confined to only one thing: their indoctrination, their ideologies. In Guyana, it's like the US. And the Corporation of Guyana is either the People's Progressive Terrorist Party or the APNU-AFC. One out of the two. Before that, it was either PNC or PPP. Because you had no choice. It's like the slave masters on the plantation tell all of you that you're free. But freedom doesn't come without a cost. You have to pay to be free. And the payment is that you got to pay for protection. That creates a police force. And who's going to protect you from the police force? You got the military, which is the army. So you got to pay taxes to support those two things. So that means you got to pay the slave master of the plantation for him that is ruling you and protection that he's going to give to you so other people wouldn't come and enslave you. In other words, other people wouldn't come and pick a war to enslave you and enslave the country that you're now supporting. Secondly, you got to pay taxes. So this particular event could be continuously, and those taxes gives you food, it gives you clothing, and that's what they're controlling. They're controlling the food, they're controlling clothing, they're controlling the medication to keep you well on the plantation. You realize that you're doing the same thing? And at the end of the day, if you don't like how one slave master is doing it, then you have an election every 5 years to choose another slave master. And that slave master comes to see how they can do it better. So take, for instance, we had APNU AFC. Now they're out. We got a fraud ally in the People's Progressive Terrorist Party. Now, what do you think they represent? Nothing. They're worse than the APNU AFC. They are so terrible that they don't give a behind how you survive. They don't care because they already know the game. They already know the game. They're their present slave master. And look, they're taking control without even your will. They're trying to tell you they don't have to get your will to become president. All they have to do is an election must run off. And during that election, they can take the election without even the support of the people. Without the support of the slaves, they can take the election because you're already slaves anyhow. So they don't have to worry. And just to make sure that you feel some sort of remorse, not complete, some sort, as a 0.001% of remorse, every now and then I'm going to hand you 100 US, 25,000 Guyana dollars, and you all jump up for joy. And you behave nice. And you say that he's doing good. Come take handouts. But the mere fact is that you are their corporate subjects. And they have different levels of corporate subjects. Which one are you? I don't know. Because I'm not a corporate subject anymore. I used to be about a year ago. But I'm not. Because I refuse to be part of a corporation. I refuse to be enslaved. I refuse to be a citizen. You cannot, how should I put it over? It's something that you cannot come out of just like that. Because you're born into it. You've grown into it. That is the only knowledge you know, so you cannot depart from that knowledge thereof. You departing from that knowledge becomes a criminal offense, a menace to society. Because especially if you don't know where to go and how to do things. But you become knowledgeable of the fact and decide to come out of that. But then you definitely do know where to go and what to do. They can't change that from you. They wish they can, but they cannot. And eventually, what happens? Eventually, now being told a whole lot of stuff. Don't bother with he trying to sow discord among the people. Among who people you talking about? Which people? Your slaves? Sow discord among who? You're basically looking for the freedom of your people. You're basically looking to make sure that they enjoy some sort of independence from a corporate society, from a civilization. That is why you're basically told every single day about you're black, If you're not black, you're colored. If you're not colored, you know, you're Indian. All of that represents black, anyhow. All of that represents black, anyhow. So I just don't know where we're going. If you're colored, you're black, you're Indian, you're Negro. It is the same thing, your color of law. For me, Dr. Matthews-Bey just want to make you independently thinking, living soul. I want to reverse the backwardness that you're going forward into. Because if you realize everything is so backward, I'm going to show you one of them. Every single 3 days per week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you're turning up at the dialysis center to do dialysis. And at the end of the day, the food that you're consuming has so much starch that reduces itself into blood glucose that rises your A1 level, which is the glucose for the diabetes, to a point where you got to go back next day and do a dialysis. And the doctor's telling you it's healthy eating. They give you a chart of dietary supplements or dietary produce that you have to eat. They're giving you that chart to go home and have your wife or your mother or your siblings prepare that for you, and it's heavily induced still in sugar and starch. And that's the life you're living. And you're drinking the pills that has gross side effects. I mean, you got to study how backward we're living, you know. Imagine you're drinking you're consuming a pill that the doctor recommended you must use, and one of the side effects is heart attack. They call it cardiac arrest or cardiac problems. I mean, you ever study the things that you are that you're participating in? It's actually killing you. Imagine instead you living a healthy life until the time you're waiting to die, which you move on to a different sphere. You're actually living a life of unhealthiness that the more longer you live with the unhealthiness is the more painful your death is. So consciously you can't sit down and realize the death you're living in. Because every morning you're constant mourning. So awake. You're constantly mourning the wake of yourself who has already died. So when you say good morning and I'm awake, it is because you've already died. And when you look at the etymology of certain words they're using, then you see you dress yourself, you put on a uniform like we normally do. And then we go to a job, J-O-B. So when you find out the etymology of the word J-O-B, you realize it's a Hebrew word, means that you're going to be oppressed. You check it. You know, it's like it's an amazing situation. And as we do these things over and over every day, we're confining ourselves to a system that continues to incarcerate us even more. We either be incarcerated in the civilized manner in which we're using to live by, or we either be incarcerated behind prison walls. That's the only two objectives right now. So what do? We become obedient to the system that is stealing from us. And we mustn't cry out. We mustn't go and get vexed and tell them, because what can happen? You'll be a dead person. So when we cry out and realize death is behind it, don't we want to cry out and talk about the first thing we holler, we don't want to die. And here's the second thing we can say now. Let us wait upon the Lord. The Lord, and we like to use the word the Lord Jesus Christ, is going to liberate us. Oh Lord, have mercy. For real? Yes, let's wait on the Lord. He's going to find a place for nowhere. He's going to make sure that he's going to find a place where we see nowhere. All things are possible through him. We're going to use those words, and they like when we use those words. Because by the time we're waiting for all things to be possible, we're already old and ready to die. So there's nothing that we can teach our children and our grandchildren but the same filth that we continue to digest and regurgitate constantly. It's a continuous filth because it makes our bodies sick. The food we eat makes us sick. The medication that we take makes us sick. The work that we do makes us sick because you don't get no rest. Our body's always dis-ease. The climate that we live in makes us sick. When we go to church, we become more sick because we believe. How can you live in doubt? All the days of your life is going to make you sick. When we say the word believe, and we don't even know that the etymology of the word believe is to doubt. We don't know these things, how horrible it is. And we wake up, we as a matter of fact, we arise every day. Every day we arise and continue to repeat this disease, this nonsense, this filth. Every single day we continue to do it, and we're not getting better at it. We're getting worse. You check it. The man can stand up on the pulpit and he can tell you heaven and hell. And he's living in heaven. He's driving the more fancy cars. He's eating the more, processed foods. I mean, he's killing himself too. And he's enjoying the remnants of your heart sweat. He's enjoying it. And then he's going to come and you said, who God bless no man puts a thunder. He's correct. Because you give unto him what is expected. You use the same scripture against your own self. It says, give unto Caesar what is Caesar, and give unto the Lord what is Lord's. Caesar's the king. The lords are his nobles. The lords are his nobles. Oh, you think you're giving unto the supreme being? Ask yourself the question. The supreme being has made it possible so you can be alive on this earth that he created for you. And he says to you, go ye therefore into all the world and replenish it. Populate it. And in doing so, each person would come into this world with 3 inalienable rights: the right to life, liberty, and property. That means you're born in it. It's already yours. All you have to do is take it. No one can stop you from doing that. When we're born with it now, we decide we don't want to born with it. We decide we give birth onto it. And then we give the children that are born into it by a birth onto it through a civilized system. By giving you up via way of a certificate of birth. Because they have given you a birth, they have changed you being born onto a birth onto a system. Means you're a new person. You're a fresh slave. Yes. Listen to me. I can't find a better way in explaining this to you guys, because it is the only way and the best way I can do it. I can't find a better way to do it. And I got to be truthful. I cannot pretend. It's best for me to be truthful than to pretend I'm guessing to tell you the unnatural facts. I can't hide part and give you part and hope that you disagree with me. From here on henceforth, all of you who listen to Gavin Matthews-Bey realize that I don't mix up my fried rice to tell you the real thing. I will let you know what is the ingredients of the fried rice in the cocoa price. I'm going to give it to you just without the ingredients. I'm going to let you know that when you come and you consume the edification process in which I use to edify you, it is to change you to the reality, to the truth, to let you know who you were before this plantation that you're living on, to let you know who you were before you were a human being. You were a living soul. To let you know who you were before you were you call it a civilized persona. Means a civilized person. Person means persona. Who you are. What is your persona? And you call out your name. Whatever your name is as a Guyanese citizen, that's your persona. Slave. Person. We don't know these things because they're not going to edify us. And they try you out every now and then before the courts of law. Within the courts of law is there to do. To try you out, test your persona. To see if you can live in a civilization or we have to imprison you because you seem to be more ignorant than those who are a little bit much obedient. Being disobedient means that you are free. I mean, not free, you're independent. Being disobedient doesn't mean that you're independent. You can be a disobedient slave and you ain't know nothing. And you just go to jail for being stupid, ignorant, and disobedient. And if you watch out, you get life imprisonment or they send you for broke your neck. Look at it. You pick sense out of nonsense. When you go and rob the businessman or a government entity or the Bank of Guyana, they send the police and the army to hunt you down and kill you because you're robbers. But when the government pass a budget of $600 billion, an expectation of continued robbery throughout a year period to see how much money they can gain by robbing, in which they call taxes. None of them goes to jail. Can you imagine that? In the Constitution, it talks about the Public Account Committee. And it says that your government must not be held accountable for monies that they cannot give proper accountability to. That means nobody goes to jail. In your Constitution that you're living by right now, that's high daylight robbery. It's worse. Because here what? They're robbing you, and in that process, whilst they're robbing you, you have to repay the money that they're taking. They call it taxes. Whilst they're robbing you, you have to repay the money that they're taking from you. That means you pay the taxes, that's robbery, and we spend the money. So you got to ask yourself, which one is better? To be a politician where I can rob you as I feel like? Or to be a common robber which cannot fend for his or her own self? Remember, the laws were created to protect who? They said the ones with common sense, the commoners, the ones with common sense, or they call it the rich ones, the politicians, the highly protected ones. The laws were created to protect them, and you can't do nothing about it. You think they can go, listen, watch, look, let me show you sense. You think they can go and arrest Mr. Jack Deere? They can't. The Constitution says he's immune from any crimes committed, whether in or out of office. He is immune for any crimes committed. The man got done $6 billion US, and nobody dares how he gets it or where he got it from. But some of his acolytes want to say that, remember, Fox Burnham, they hide how much $100 million in the Swiss account, in some Swiss account, somewhere in Switzerland. So they're throwing stones at one window when their window got a big glass in it, polished. You don't expect someday somebody gonna pass and pelt a big brick there and break it up. So what is happening? All these things are occurring, and we say nothing. We do nothing. So how can there be any justice? There's no justice. Justice cannot prevail. There's no justice at all. We cannot stand idly by as Aboriginal indigenous people and allow our people to continue to live within a civilized system like this and don't say anything at all. Got to say something. You got to rise up and do something. Something has to happen. We just cannot allow any little thing to happen and we do not say nothing about it. What absolute craziness and absurdity. People are making preemptive decisions to take a life, thinking that that man is going to take my life, so I eventually killed him, and we call them casualties. We don't call it murder, we call it casualties. But let you do something, it's murder. Aren't you all human beings? Yes, you are. You are human beings. You're already dead. You know, I can show you a simple instance. We talk about the voters' lists. We talk about a clean voters' list in the Corporation of Guyana before the elections, right? And we talk about dead people voting. You know, we don't even know that the persona in which we hold right now, that which we agree to and signed on to by way of identification, we are, not we, you. Can't say me. You are dead people. So, you think your fraud and Jack Deere wrong? They're wrong, the right. You got to pull out the dead to vote for you because it's dead people voting for you anyhow. It's dead people voting for you anyhow. Because if you say nothing and you do nothing, you are already dead. And you wait to come at the end of every electoral system or time to talk your mind, to say something, to vote. What happened to all them years before voting? Look at it. 47 boxes that cannot verify if you're two-thirds of a human being or if you're a dead person. That verification process can't work because a bunch of dead people, we gonna bully them. They can't say nothing because I named Dan Dargon. We gonna bully them. And they talk about people with stature and elevation, and there's a bunch of criminals. It's like, hold on, I am trying to finalize this thing really. Look at the people. Don't look at Guyana alone. Look at worldwide. In all the corporations around the world. Look at the kind of people who are presidents or CEOs, head of these corporations. A bunch of criminals who are killing people, robbing people, who are dictatorship, who got people living in hunger, poverty, who exercising racism, who doing all these things. And these people is heads of corporations. And you, who's supposed to say something, ain't doing nothing. And when the people treat you like slaves, you vex. Oh, they're going to treat me like that, you mad? But if they're robbing you bright daylight with your eyes wide open, if they're robbing you with your eyes wide open, I don't know what else to tell you. I'll be honest with you. With your eyes wide open, I don't know what else to tell you. Because if you can't see it, heaven help you. And I know most of us are seeing it. But what happened with most of us is that everybody want to go hell. No, everybody want to go heaven. Nobody want to go hell. We're so scared with this fear factor that is being pushed onto us that even into the religious community, some of us fear these things. Even in the religious community, some of us fear these things. Till they even come in and tell you fear is the knowledge of God. You could imagine that crap. That nonsense. I call it poopsicle. Fear is the beginning of knowledge of God. Imagine the poopsicle. They're telling you that. You ever check it? We're living a real backward system. Then when one man decides to talk about it, he's suddenly anti-Semitic. And you don't even know that the Shemites that they're talking about, that they say anti-Semitic, are Aboriginal indigenous people. Those who would have originated from the Bantu people. Bantu means people of the earth. That's what it means. Dark like me, it's pigmentation, hair like wool. And they're saying that you're anti-Semitic. Punishing you for you. You ever check the lawlessness that we live by? It's like, okay, let me show you, for instance, the word white, W-H-I-T-E. There's no white people. White, the etymology of white is a stature. It is a stature given to a noble individual. He's a white individual. It is a stature. It's not a recognition to race or ethnicity. There's no white ethnic people. It's a Caucasian or Caucasites. That's the original word. And they added Caucasian to it. But to be Caucasian is to be pale. And the color that represents pale is black. The name of the color pale is black. It represents, you can imagine all these things. So those aliens that are mistreating us, and I call them aliens because they have no adjective to their names as a representation. So the only thing they can do is turn our culture around and use it against us. They can't even use their own culture against us because they have no culture whatsoever. They have no culture whatsoever. So it tells you something. Where are they from? Where are they from? Because every corner of the earth, of this globe that you go to, the foundational people and indigenous people of that land represents me, looks like me. The nose broad, the lips thick, pigmentation heavy. The more heavier pigmentation is, the more the pineal gland works. They don't have a pineal gland. So it asks the questions begged to differ. Where are they from? Where are they from? That's the question. And we who fights up at the end of the day for a representation and recognition from them doesn't even work. Nothing from them works for us. Everything is about the enslavement of a people and an oppressive manner that destroy us mentally, physically, and spiritually. Some of us, they just makes us the bourgeoisie to enslave our own brothers and sisters more by thinking of an ideology. You got your children want to grow up to be like Will Smith or Mariah Carey or Rihanna or Jay-Z. Your children wants to grow up to be a bourgeoisie. And what do they represent? Themselves. They don't even represent us because they promote the kind of things that kills us. Check and see who they get rich off of. Coca-Cola, that doesn't do nothing good to our body. Nike, that are designed and made in jail from imprisoned men. The pharmaceutical corporation that kills us even more because it's a poison. The processed food that is a more deeper poison to us that doesn't make any sense. They represent Gatorade that they promote more better than water. You check all these things and the clotheslines that they're representing that pays them a great amount of money doesn't even want people like me you wear their clothing. You check it. The women who are like me, instead of they allow their hair to grow prostately and outwards, they wear the wigs because apparently the chemicals ain't working good. Because the chemicals making the run ball and they get skin cancer at early age. So what they did is to create wigs now. And they got them, let's call it bone straight wigs. Man, oh man, oh man. And your culture, the background in which you come from ain't nothing to where you're comparing yourself to be. And some of them too black. As a matter of fact, some of them is too dark, heavily pigmented, that they are so upset not only of the texture of the skin, but the pigmentation of the skin, they want to bleach it out because apparently they're not clean enough. Look, there's so many things that are so devastating to us as a people that I continue to talk even more and more each day. Brothers and sisters, I want to rise you out of the sleep in which you are in. And that matrix that's taking you down that rotten hole that you're in. The matrix that I'm talking about, it is the algorithm that you're so intertwined, you're so down into it, you cannot. It's hard for you to see any possible way out. It's take you out of that algorithm and put you upon the pinnacle of your story, your culture from which you're from. My name is Dr. Matthews-Bey. You can get me on the phone number beneath the screen there, 611-6575. Please put 592 to those who are calling from overseas. WhatsApp me, and I'll be able to take you through that process to arise you from that position that you're in and put your eyes upon that pinnacle that you'll be able to have that vision of independence. Once again, I say my name is Dr. Matthews-Bey of the Dr. Matthews-Bey Show. I want to say to you, stay safe, be careful, sanitize yourself, and wear a mask. Don't forget the little ones that you take into public places. This show comes to you with the kind compliments of Greenleaf Distributors, Event Management Services, and Black Love. As again I say, share the live. This is Dr. Matthews-Bey, thanking you very much for being here with me through this 1 hour time. Good night and Cheerios for now.